Last night, I lit my favorite mango scented candle, made a cup of mango chamomile tea to match, and settled into my couch with my journal. After taking a podcast break, only doing one episode each for July and August, I realized how much I missed these conversations. As I sat there, pen hovering over paper, one question kept coming to mind that I felt was so perfect to explore together as we transition into a new season. So, as you can tell from the title of this episode, what are you centering for your next season? Before continuing, I should probably reintroduce myself. Hi, my name is Elijah, but you can call me Lay. Welcome back to A Little Atypical, where we talk all things wellness, personal development, and lifestyle topics. This is kind of a surprise episode because I wanted to get back to doing more episodes for September. I wasn't going to post until maybe September 8th, but since I had writing burnout, I figured I should just focus on a different form of creation so that I can re-spark my creativity. I thought it would be fun to do a debrief session about the summer and just share the journal prompt as a routine starter. Sometimes switching between different creative outlets helps prevent complete burnout, so that's what we're gonna do. This summer, if I'm being honest, was so much better than summer 2024, which is definitely a win. I'd give this summer a solid 6 compared to last year's 2, because honestly no summer has topped summer 2019 for me, and that was just filled with so much fun and good memories. Summer 18 had its painful moments, but it was also a year I really turned my negative emotions and kind of alchemized it, and that resulted in a glow up that year. So I can't hate on summer 2018, but that was a summer of plot twists. Despite having a better summer this year, I am still so ready for fall. There is something about autumn that makes me feel calmer. It's probably because the season naturally sets up purpose and direction. Summer, in comparison, feels more like an it is what it is season where anything could happen, which has its charm, but also its challenges. This summer, I found myself constantly bombarded with information ranging from, serious topics to completely unserious. In terms of the unserious, my algorithm has been Love Island content, which is wild considering I never watched the show before. I almost did consider, though, watching this year because of Alandria, who is honestly, seriously, one of the most stunning people I've ever seen. She just kind of has that vibe, a warm energy. And I'm not typically a parasocial person, but something about her just captures my attention. I've also been seeing clips from The Summer I Turned Pretty, also the edits. Honestly, recently Spy Family came up on my feed again. It was so random. So did EXO Kitty, and somehow I landed on engagement ring TikTok and wedding dress TikTok. So that happened because my mom was like, Taylor Swift is engaged, because it came on the news, which led to me, I forgot how the conversation went, but basically it led to me showing her what is my dream ring styles. So I've had about 3 to 4 styles in mind for the longest time, but I told her the most important thing was more of the style of the band too. Besides the diamond, yeah, that's cool. But because I'm very specific, I told her the type of design I would really like. And then she didn't know what I was talking about. So then, yeah, I had to show her. And then she's like, oh, yeah. So that is how I got pulled into engagement and wedding TikToks. But I digress on that. I've also been really excited for fall for many reasons. So obviously it is the fashion time. Obviously Fashion Week in New York comes twice a year. It is September for the fall, and I'm pretty sure February-ish for the winter, I think. Anyways, so I'm excited for the fashion and beauty events coming up. I kind of wish I signed up for more things, but I'm still looking forward to the events I will be going to. And something in me during the fall just kind of triggers a more social mood. And I think it's because it's easier to spot people with more similar interests to me. If I'm going to a lot of beauty, fashion type events, I will more likely find more people with similar interests to me, you know? So there's that. And I'm excited for September because I'm also doing something I've been trying to do since last year. I don't want to say exactly what it is until it officially happens because last time I tried, it got canceled. So I'm not going to be too specific, but I think it's something that will help me, and I'm hoping it provides the solutions I've been kind of looking for in that area of my life. But back to the biggest reason for why I'm excited for fall, which is the structures. Even though this summer has been better, around mid-August, I started to get this deja vu feeling. The same type of experience I have in February, so fatigue, strange appetite changes, and just being in a mood without it being tied to a specific thing. This brings me back to why I'm excited for the return of structure, because I know it does sound odd, but sometimes I feel more secure with structure than just doing anything and everything, because structure helps me feel more focused and like things are actually progressing in my life. And when it comes to summer, like, yes, I feel like I still love summer and I will always like have nostalgia attached to it because, you know, I feel like my allegiance to summer and why I still like claim it as one of my favorite seasons is because that was the time we got off during school time, like, and I just feel like I reminisce on those memories, and that's why summer, I still claim it as my favorite season. But honestly, I'm always like the happiest in fall. So something I noticed recently, like showing up on my feed besides like all the things I listed before, is kind of two trends. So the first one, personal curriculums. I thought I would mention it here since I'm probably not writing until after my birthday in October, but we will see. That is not confirmed, but I sometimes change my mind. Anyways, so I got inspired by several TikToks talking about creating your own personal curriculum. So this trend basically involves creating like a structured learning and development plan for yourself, like similar to how schools design curriculums, but tailor it to your own like personal growth and interest. Some things people have been doing is like mapping out monthly focuses, weekly themes, daily practices, and it's in different categories. So it's for like finance, wellness, creative skills, intellectual growth, etc. Whatever you want it to be. Some creators create like elaborate spreadsheets, or they create like presentations for it and design like journals to track their progress. So what I love most is how people customize it to their specific needs. Some focus on like professional development, while others emphasize like life skills they never got to learn in school. And overall, I just think it's perfect for postgrads who struggle with the lack of structure that kind of comes with adulthood, because many of us who kind of like thrived in a school structure, but let's say you're employed, but that's like the only structured thing you have in your life, having something like that can help you do other things and find fulfillment outside of work, which is, in my opinion, something very important, because it prevents your job from becoming your entire identity and gives you a sense of progress and achievement that we often like miss when we leave like the education bracket, you know? And I know not everyone is like that, but for the few who are like that, that if you got used to that structure. And honestly, I think that's why some people struggle in post-grad the most, because going from, oh, I had my entire life kind of planned out, like what I'm learning at this point in time, and what am I focused on, and then we knew like the next and the next and the next thing. And if unless you like continue school by doing like law school or medical school or anything like that, that structure basically kind of gets like ripped away, and you're like, you're on your own. You're on your own, kid. So it is what it is. So I kind of vibe with that. The other trend, which is kind of not new, but it is what people are calling the great lock-in of 2025, which is happening a bit earlier than how it started last year, because I'm pretty sure from what I remember it started in October last year until the end of the year, but people are starting from September 1st. So social media is already filled with people sharing their lock-in plans, routines, commitment posts. It seems like the collective burnout from summer, which I know sounds insane, but sometimes you can get burnt out with a lack of structure too. Like, I don't think many people talk about it, but just doing anything and everything and then being so dysregulated for a long period of time also leads to burnout. The trend basically focuses on personal glow ups and self improvement, with people dedicating themselves to consistent routines and habits. I've seen people share about having about 8 different focuses, while others kind of create like a detailed list of personal rules they'll follow. And some are tracking their progress daily with spreadsheets and journals or stuff like that, like similar to what I mentioned before, while others are actually forming like accountability groups online. So what I'm thinking is I kind of want to do a hybrid of both of those approaches. So I'm thinking about like breaking things down into categories and then working from there. So my categories are self-nurture, because I talked about it in the beginning of this year, and at that time I was like the most productive and on top of things. So I want to get back to doing more of that. So self-nurture, responsibility, energy management, tracking, and mood management. So self-nurturing, I'm focusing more on my morning routine. Like I mentioned, I am typically an early riser. Some nights, even if I go to sleep at 11, I still wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and can't fall back asleep. What works for me is taking like this chewable vitamin before bed, which helps me stay asleep longer, and also making sure to cut off water at a very specific time or I'm gonna wake up. But regardless, my cat will still wake me up for breakfast around 4 or 5 a.m. So this category will include like daily movement, which I'm thinking 80 minutes maximum, which may sound obsessive, but from my perspective, I'm most likely just walking and then maybe a YouTube workout. But what I'm aiming to do is 5:20 a.m. to about 6:40 a.m. or if I feel like ending a bit earlier around 6:30, or whatever, I can. But also on my busy days, my bare minimum is hitting around like 12,000 to 15,000 steps, which is basically what I was doing at a time before. So I feel like I need to build up to that again. So I might start maybe a little lower at 10,000, but I'm hoping to build up to eventually getting back to 12,000 to 15,000. But on the days I do like those longer workouts, like obviously I'm not considering steps as much. But if I know I'm not doing anything besides walking, then steps are more considered. Self-nurture also includes cleaning my environment, so dedicating 20 minutes to keeping my living space clean and organized, which I think helps me with my mental clarity and productivity. And the last thing I'm also saying is obviously hygiene and self-care. I know people have strong opinions about shower schedules, but I'm definitely pro showers after working out and after coming in from outside if I don't plan on going back outside. And if neither of those things happen in a day because I'm home and I decide I'm just focusing on steps throughout the day, then I would just do an evening shower. However, since I am more of a morning workout person, I typically opt for the morning showers, but if I end up going out later, I'll shower again in the evening, you know? But regardless, in terms of the morning, I'm still dedicating like 30 minutes to that. And obviously, I can do the math from the time I wake up. So there's probably an extra 50 minutes, which I'm dedicating to like cooking food, eating the food, feeding my cat Callie. So there's that. The responsibility category covers like anything I have to do for the bag or my future self and growth. This is the largest chunk of my day and is basically 6 to 8 hours depending on the day. It includes things like career tasks, content creation, self-education, and realistically, this will look different every day. Next is energy management, which involves things that I have to do throughout the day to support like hitting my goals, you know? So that is physical consumption, so nutrition and hydration is included in that. Sleep/rest and consumption boundaries. So the last one pretty much also includes like screen time, but I feel like there are different things we consume and that can be put into there, but it's about like what boundaries I have around those things. Next category is tracking, and for this I would just say keeping track of my progress weekly or bi-weekly, either through like measurements, weight measurement, photos or videos. And the final thing I am listing is basically mood management, which is how I want to spend the later part of my day from like 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., which includes like mindset fueling, spiritual or religious connection, and like a joyful activity. So I've done most of the detailed breakdown for my morning routine because it's kind of like the most important aspect to consider. Like the rest are more like time blocks or habits. And I also want to plan what weekends could look like, since that's where people struggle, myself included, with maintaining their structure and like that type of thing. So those are things I'm centering this fall. I hope hearing this inspired some new ideas for how you can pursue your goals, like just something creative. And some questions you can also consider is to answer our big question of the episode. What areas of your life feel the most out of balance right now? What's one habit that would make the biggest positive impact on your daily life? What activity brings you the most genuine joy that you've been neglecting? What's one thing you've been putting off that would bring more structure to your daily life? How can you incorporate more intentional moments into your typical day? As we wrap up today's episode, I want to reflect on this transition we're experiencing. August had this kind of powerful feeling of closure, at least for me. It marked the end of what I'd like to call my uncertainty and crash and burn era. So the time where things felt the most like difficult, heavy, where I had to make all these like hard decisions, and I kind of felt like I lost my sense of self at some point and was really struggling to identify what I really wanted. And my biggest takeaway from this summer is experience truly is the best teacher, because we often discover what we don't want before figuring out what we do. There's always something so magical about those moments when you recognize something feels different, when something sparks curiosity or joy that you haven't felt before when pursuing something. And that's just your signal to follow that path and lean into that feeling. I hope as you enter this new season, you'll pay attention to those sparks and honor them by giving them space in your life. So that is all for today. For this episode, I thought using the self-care deck would be the most appropriate. I don't know if I'll use it for the entire month, but it definitely felt important for the start of September. So I'm not going to explain because this one is very like self-explanatory, and I also like even if you're a person who doesn't like card pulls, this one is pretty like tame. So for this episode, we got card 28, which is intuition. The mantra says, I listen to my intuition as it leads me on my highest path. Intuition is the insight that comes before thought and without thinking. It is an innate knowledge of what is in alignment with our highest good. It is the energy of the universe that directs us on our life path, nudging us toward the choices that will fuel our growth. Intuition resides within the heart and goes beyond logic or reason. Its messages are shared without judgment or need to be defined. Reinforce intuition's essential role in maintaining your well-being and connection to the spiritual realm by listening to it and acting upon it regularly. Keep track of when you receive an intuitive message and how often it turns out to be right, either by making a mental note or writing it down. As you notice the trend of your intuition as a guiding force, you'll come to trust it more and more. Journal prompt. Recall a time when you intuitively knew something was a bad idea, but ignored your intuition. How can you learn from this experience? Like I said, usually whenever I pull cards, it is always very fitting. I'm not going to explain that. I think it is very straightforward, and I think it just kind of continued what we were saying about the spark, like how we wrapped up. Anyways, thank you for tuning in to today's episode of A Little Atypical. If you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe and share with someone who might need to hear this message. Remember, view the description box where you can find important links, such as to my website where there is still so much bonus content. And until next time, have a good day, evening, or night, and stay authentically atypical. Okay, bye!